you talked and you gave us one word, and that's fast-tracking the process. Why so urgent in this harsh economic conditions, in the global recession time? Why do we have to fast-track it?
Well, it's a good reason. I mean, the global financial crisis that came in 2008, we are, although it's not completely over, things have gotten better than it was before. And it started probably even at the end of 2007 into 2008. Things are getting better. And I hear this raised a lot, that the economy is fragile. So why are we fast-tracking? I would answer that even if we had recession, that is the right reasons why you should come together. Because when you come together and you create the market space, this eventually will lead into employment generation. Because if you have a wider market, goods have to be produced, you have to diversify your economy, there'll be competition. As a result, jobs will be created. And when jobs are created, people will spend the income that they get from the jobs, and through that, the consumption global consumption or total consumption would increase. And what we know as a common measure of the gross national product, which is known as the GDP, would also rise. So collectively, we will do well. Of course, there'll be some problems here and there. There'll be some winners, there'll be some losers, but eventually we will succeed.
Okay, that was the next point I was about to raise, because collectively speaking, Africa will benefit, but there are some countries who may be drag for some others. For example, if you look at the European Union zone, now Greece is being chided, is being criticized for dragging the Eurozone down, as well as Portugal and others. So how can you convince, let's say, financially equipped or better, economically better countries and the rest to join one?
Well, that is a good question, and it's a valid point. But it depends on what structures you have in place. There is something we know which is called variable geometry. And what do I mean by variable geometry? Variable geometry means that when you come to integration and you want to implement certain policies, you look at the developmental levels of which countries. You know, when you have an FTA, not everybody would agree to it in principle that it's a good thing. Like Ethiopia agrees to COMESA's FTA, but it has not acceded to COMESA FTA because it feels that it needs time to develop its industries in order to be part of it. So you can still have that. You can have that arrangement. And mind you, I haven't said that about Ethiopia. I must say that within the COMESA zone, Ethiopia has reduced its tariffs a lot in order to attract COMESA goods. They've just not acceded to FTA. But from what I'm hearing, that is working towards that, to accede to COMESA FTA. So my point is that this is the issue that could happen. You can have a continental FTA. Countries would decide to accede to it depending on their own needs, depending on what stage of development they are. So you can have something like variable geometry. And I think this is the tripartite thing which I talked about between the three regs, the COMESA, the SADC and EAC. One of the pillars is that to say that they would have a pillar of regional integration, they would have a pillar on infrastructure, they would have a pillar on industrialization. However, they take note of the variable geometry that member countries, probably some of them, may not be able to accede immediately.
Do you think, as we are winding up our discussions, do you think the frameworks are there? Like, for example, last time around I remember that Jean Ping saying that infrastructure should be the next agenda for Africa. Unless if we have those infrastructures, we cannot have free trade, etc. Do you have those kind of things on the ground besides the framework in big meetings and the like?
Well, I think what the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Jean Ping, is saying is right. We need to strengthen our infrastructure if we need to have viable and credible trade free trade areas. Yes, we do have a program which is known as the Program for Infrastructure Development for Africa, which is being led by the African Union Commission, supported by the ECA, Economic Commission for Africa, supported by the African Development Bank, supported by the African Regional Economic Communities, and also supported by the NEPAD Planning and Coordinating Agency. So they are all in it to have a program of infrastructure development for Africa. So that is being worked on. But we have to have, there's a program or a treaty which our leadership subscribed to, and that is known as the Abuja Treaty of 1994. It was launched in 1991, but brought into force through ratification of national parliaments in 1994. And that gives the roadmap towards where we are going in various stages. But I think what you're talking about in terms of infrastructure is key. Africa's infrastructure is weak. A report that came back from the World Bank suggests that Africa needs about 93 billion every year to develop its infrastructure.
Okay, 93 billion. That's a huge amount.
US dollars, yeah. But the good news about that is that about 40 of that, 40 to 45, I think 40, it's been provided by Africans themselves. Africans are using their own resources to provide, contrary to what many people think, right? Contrary to what many people think. Africa themselves are spending a lot of their money on infrastructure and development from the taxpayer, right? But there's still a gap, right? There's still a gap. Currently, Africa, provides... No, let me back up. Africa provides about 30 billion. 10 billion comes from the donor partners, right? So we still have the gap of about
another 40-something.
40-something billion. And how are we going to raise it? And so you and I, people here in this meeting, we've got to think through how we're going to raise this money. And there are various options available through using pension funds, through using our reserves, through using kind of infrastructure bonds to support that kind of initiative. So these are being looked into as we speak.
Do you have any message that you want to pass, let's say, to the young so that this dream should be realized?
You are my future, the youth. You are my future, my only hope to make change. I do strongly believe that you are more committed in terms of the integration agenda. When I see the way the youth of Africa, you get together, even through music, through entertainment, through a lot of things that you do, I see that you are very, very passionate about Africa. And continue. If we can support you, come to us and let's see how we can support you. But you are the ones who would keep this dream alive. And you are the ones, the youth of Africa, that will make us one day, will make me, when I'm rocking in my old chair, say that yes, I have an African passport. You are the youth. You are the ones who are going to make it possible for me to say, yes, I can move from Ghana with no questions asked to go and reside in Ethiopia or in Asmara or in Joburg. So we count on you, the youth. And please, lobby your politicians, lobby them to see through. But I can understand also, don't rush it. Work with the old. The old is also important. Work with them to make change. Change would happen, and change in Africa would happen through you, the youth. I am very, very, very confident in that.
Okay, Mr. Joseph Atta-Mensah, thank you for the interview. And I do hope that you also write another success on your new title of the Office of Strategic Planning and Program Management too, as you did on the Regional Integration, Infrastructure and Trade Division.
Thank you very much, Samson. I hope we have an opportunity to have this discussion again or any other related topic. I'm glad that you invited me and I had a great time here.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
You're now tuned in to Behind the Afro Mic. Behind the Afro Mic talks to people from all walks of life. Behind the Afro Mic is brought to you by 105.3 Afro FM, your infotainment station.